I feel like this is the part of the conversation where we've gotten to the end, and the doctor has just said that we have some sort of terminal illness. And at the end of the conversation, I think the patient, David and I, have to ask the question: Okay, doc, how long do we have? Like seriously, what are we talking about here? If you turn out to be correct, are we talking about years? Are we talking about decades? Like what's your idea here?
What are you prepared
Yeah.
for? Yeah.
How the hell would I know? Enrico Fermi was saying that fission chain reactions were 50 years off if they could ever be done at all, 2 years before he built the first nuclear pile. The Wright brothers were saying heavier than air flight was 50 years off, shortly before they built the first Wright flyer. How on earth would I know? It could be 3 years. It could be 15 years. We could get that AI winter I was hoping for, and it could be 16 years. I'm not really seeing 50 without some kind of giant civilizational catastrophe. And to be clear, whatever civilization arises after that would probably, I'm guessing, end up stuck in just the same trap we are.
I think the other thing that the patient might do at the end of a conversation like this is also consult with other doctors. I'm kind of curious if who we should talk to on this quest. Who are some people that, if people in crypto want to hear more about this or learn more about this, or even we ourselves as podcasters and educators want to pursue this topic, who are the other individuals in the AI alignment and safety space you might recommend for us to have a conversation with?
Well, the person who actually holds a coherent technical view, who disagrees with me, is named Paul Christiano. He does not write Harry Potter fan fiction, and I expect to have a harder time explaining himself in concrete terms. But that is like the main technical voice of opposition. If you talk to other people in the effective altruism or AI alignment communities who disagree with this view, they are probably to some extent repeating back their misunderstandings of Paul Christiano's views. You could try Ajaya Kotra, who's worked pretty directly with Paul Christiano, and I think sometimes aspires to explain these things that Paul is not the best at explaining. I'll throw out Kelsey Piper as somebody who would be good at explaining, like would not claim to be a like a technical person on these issues, but is like good at explaining the part that she does know. Man, who else that disagrees with me? I'm sure Robin Hanson would be happy to come up. Well, I'm not sure he'd be happy to come on this podcast, but Robin Hanson disagrees with me, and I kind of feel like the famous argument we had back in the early 2010s, late 2000s about how this would all play out. I basically feel like this was the Yudkowsky position, and this is the Hanson position, and then reality was over here, like to the Yudkowsky side of the Yudkowsky position in the Yudkowsky-Hanson debate. But Robin Hanson does not feel that way. I would probably be happy to expound on that at length. I don't know. It's not hard to find opposing viewpoints. The ones that'll stand up to a few solid minutes of cross-examination from somebody who knows which parts to cross-examine. That's the hard part.
I've read a lot of your writings and listened to you on previous podcasts. One was in 2018 on the Sam Harris podcast. This conversation feels to me like the most dire you've ever seemed on this topic. And maybe that's not true. Maybe you've sort of always been this way, but it seems like the direction of your hope that we solve this issue has declined. I'm wondering if you feel like that's the case, and if you could sort of summarize your take on all of this as we close out this episode and offer, I guess, any thoughts, concluding thoughts here.
I mean, I don't know if you've got like a time limit on this episode, question mark? Or is it just as long as it runs?
It's as long as it needs to be. And I feel like this is a pretty important topic. So you answer this and
All right.
however you want.
Well, there was a conference one time on what are we going to do about looming risk of AI disaster. And Elon Musk attended that conference. And I was like, maybe this is it. Maybe, that maybe this is when the powerful people notice. And it's, like one of the relatively more technical, powerful people who could be noticing this. And maybe this is where humanity finally turns and starts, not quite fighting back because there isn't an external enemy here, but conducting itself with, I don't know, acting like it cares, maybe. And what came out of that conference, well, was OpenAI, which was basically very nearly the worst possible way of doing anything. A whole, like, this is not a problem of, oh no, what if secret elites get AI? It's that nobody knows how to build the thing. If we do have an alignment technique, it's going to involve running the AI with a bunch of like careful bounds on it, where you don't just like throw all the cognitive power you have at something. You have limits on the for loops, and whatever it is that could possibly save the world, like go out and turn all the GPUs and the server clusters into Rubik's cubes or something else that prevents the world from ending when somebody else builds another AI a few weeks later. Anything that could do that is an artifact where somebody else could take it and take the bounds off the for loops and use it to destroy the world. Yeah, so like, let's open up everything. Let's accelerate everything. It was like GPT-3's version, though GPT-3 didn't exist back then, but it was like ChatGPT's blind version of like throwing the ideals at a place where they were exactly the wrong ideals to solve the problem. When the problem is that demon summoning is easy and angel summoning is much harder. Open sourcing all the demon summoning circles is not the correct solution. I'm not even using, and I'm using Elon Musk's own terminology here. They talk about AI as summoning the demon, which, not accurate, and then the solution was to put a demon summoning circle in every household. And why? Because his friends were calling him Luddites once he'd expressed any concern about AI at all. So he picked a road that sounded like openness and accelerating technology. So his friends would stop calling him Luddites. It was very much the worst, like maybe not the literal actual worst possible strategy, but so very far pessimal. And that was it. That was like, that was me in 2015 going like, oh, so this is what humanity will elect to do. We will not rise above. We will not have more grace, not even here at the very end. So that is, that is when I did my crying late at night, and then picked myself up and fought and fought and fought until I had run out all the avenues that I seem to have the capabilities to do. There's like more things, but they require scaling my efforts in a way that I've never been able to make them scale. And all of it's pretty far-fetched at this point anyways. So, so what's changed over the years? Well, first of all, I ran out some remaining avenues of hope. And second, things got to be such a disaster, such a visible disaster. The AIs got powerful enough, and it became clear enough that, we do not know how to align these things, that I could actually say what I'd been thinking for a while, and not just have people go completely like, what are you saying about all this? Now the stuff that was obvious back in 2015 is, starting to become visible in distance to others and not just like completely invisible. That's what changed over time.
What kind of, what do you hope people hear out of this episode and out of your comments, Eliezer in 2023, who is sort of running on the last fumes of of hope. Yeah, what do you want people to get out of this episode? What are you planning to do?
I don't have concrete hopes here. When everything is in ruins, you might as well speak the truth, right? Maybe somebody hears it, somebody figures out something I didn't think of. I mostly expect that this does more harm than good in the modal universe, because a bunch of people are like, oh, I have this brilliant, clever idea, which is, like something that somebody that, I was arguing against in 2003 or whatever. But, maybe somebody out there with the proper level of pessimism hears and thinks of something I didn't think of. I suspect that if there's hope at all, it comes from a technical solution, because the difference between technical problems and political problems is at least the technical problems have solutions in principle. At least the technical problems are solvable. We're not on course to solve this one, but I don't really see I think anybody who's hoping for a political solution has frankly not understood the technical problem. They do not understand what it looks like to try to solve the political problem to such a degree that the world is not controlled by AI, because they don't understand how easy it is to destroy the world with AI, given that the clock keeps ticking forward. They're thinking that they just have to stop some bad actor, and that's why they think there's a political problem or political solution. But yeah, I don't have concrete hopes. I didn't come on this episode out of any concrete hope. I have no takeaways except don't make this thing worse. Don't go off and accelerate AI more. Don't if you have a brilliant solution to alignment, don't be like, yes, I have solved the whole problem. We just use the following clever trick. Don't make things worse than very much of a message, especially when you're pointing people at the field at all. But I have no winning strategy. Might as well go on this podcast and say what as an experiment, and say what I think and see what happens. And probably no good ever comes of it. But, you might as well go down fighting, right? If there's a world that survives, maybe it's a world that survives because of a bright idea somebody had after listening to this podcast. That was brighter, to be clear, than the usual run of bright ideas that don't work.
If you enjoyed all of that, then you'll absolutely love the Bankless newsletter. Join over 300,000 fellow readers, all for free. Click below to sign up.